All right, 7:01. I'm going to call the September 14th, 2021 regular planning board meeting to order. Consistent with the governor's orders extending certain provisions of the open meeting law, every effort will be made to allow the public to view and or listen to the meeting in real time. Persons who wish to do so are invited to click on the link provided. If you do not have a camera or microphone on your computer, you may use the following dial-in number that is provided. Use only dial-in or computer, not both, as feedback will distort the meeting. This meeting is video and audio, and we have transcripts also enabled. I do ask that the name displayed on your Zoom matches who you are if you're going to speak. I do ask if you are going to speak to enable your video so we can see you. If we were having a live meeting, we would expect you to not stand in the hallway, but actually be in front of us. So also, and if someone is speaking, I would prefer that people not make gestures or show disrespect to whoever's speaking at the time. So if you disagree, that's fine, but don't shake your head, don't mock people. I will not allow that. All right, so I'm going to do a roll call vote. Jim Hogan.
Here.
Theo Knoll.
Here.
Bill Spalding.
Here.
And Megan Menasali.
Here.
Thank you. I see Erin is here and Susan, our clerk, is also here. Item 2, approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the August 24th, 2021 meeting minutes? All right. Does anyone have any additions or changes to the meeting minutes? All right. Seeing none, I'm going to take a roll call vote for approval of the, actually, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
All right.
And I'll second.
All right, motion by Theo, a second by Megan. All right, roll call vote. Jim,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Theo,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, thank you. Item 3, Erin is going to speak on the overview of a master plan process that is being kicked off. So, Erin, are you prepared for this?
Yeah, last night
Okay.
was not, I had some family issues that were going on, but I'm more prepared tonight. So thank you, Matt. So I can officially announce that we are doing a master plan process. It will start January. The public process will start in January. Before then, we will be looking for advisory committee people. So starting tomorrow, you can go online and find an application to apply to be part of the advisory committee. We're looking for everyone from high school, college kids, up to senior citizens, people that have just moved here. So I think it's a really exciting time. I know since I've started, that's been a big thing that people have always asked me, like, oh, when are we going to do a master plan? And I just want to put this out there too. Like, this is not the end all be all. It's a guide. It's not what's going to, any problems that people might have, this is not going to be the thing that's going to fix it. But I think it's a good way for us to start going in some sort of direction. So starting tomorrow, we'll have a website. Real quick. I don't have it on me. Oh, right here. So you can go to wakefield.ma.us/master plan or master plan. And you can find the applications, see the last time that I don't know if it's on there, but did a master plan. So it's a really exciting time. Sorry, my kids are yelling. But yeah, I think this is all in the purview of the planning board. But I think, everyone's kind of with housing and everything else that's going on. I think everyone's ready for something like this. So I'm just excited to announce it. We don't have the funding yet from the state, but I think everything's hopefully going in the right direction with that. So yeah. And if you need me explain more what a master plan is, I'm more than welcome to. I just don't want to spend more of anyone's time. And that's it.
Aaron, what is the makeup you'll be looking for? I know you're gonna want some board participation, you're gonna want other people in town, and then obviously townspeople. So do you have a rough outline of what you
So
would envision?
yeah. So without the planning board even involved, or either myself or other town people at these sort of meetings, we're looking for like 20 to 25 people to be involved. And I think, again, like I said, like a good mix of people, because I think the more opinions you get, the better, to see how we want our community to go. So yeah, 20 to 25 is the happy number, just because we know people are busy, everyone has a life, like it's a lot to commit yourself to, but that's what we're looking for.
And this will be run most likely by MAPC?
Yes, so MAPC is our consultant, but I just want to make this clear. MAPC is the person writing the report, but the end of the day, it's the people that show up to the meetings, saying what they want for our community. And I just want to put that out there and make that clear as possible. Yes. I think, yeah, there's been people a little worried about MAPC, but I don't think they have any bad interests. I think they will listen to what we want, and it's very important, again, that the community shows up.
Yeah, I mean, I know there are some people that aren't too thrilled with MAPC, but they have done a lot of this. So they do have an outline. They know what's going on in other towns. And as long as we got participation from town folks, we're the ones that drive it in the direction that we want it to go. So
Exactly.
if we have no involvement, obviously, we're going to get a boilerplate something, which we don't want.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. So, we can talk about this all day, but tell your friends, anyone, like it's very important to be, if you feel passionate about something in town, this is the time to do it. So.
Right, and I know we had talked about before about when this is going to happen. These meetings are going to happen in the evening.
Yes, I think, well, we were originally hoping, when I looked at the original scope of work, to do like half in person, half virtual, but I think everyone knows kind of what's going on now, so it's a little difficult to commit to anything. So I think it will be mostly virtual at this point. But yeah, from like 7 to 9, like 7 to 10, and anyone that's done the Vision 2030, I would say it's pretty similar to that.
All right, sounds good.
So I'm more than happy. So yeah, we have the website, and I'll put this presentation, which I should show, but I can show it, but I kind of think I just explained kind of everything we're looking at. The master plan does look at a lot of things: housing, transportation, and I think it's great now. It's changed a lot from even 10 years ago, what we look at, like diversity and all that. So I think it's going to be a really great evaluation of the town and how we want to move forward. And yeah, just important that people show up and give their opinion.
Yeah, and I think one of the good things, one of the things you need to point out about master plans are that they're just a guide. Just because something is in the master plan doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen exactly that way, but if it comes down to where a certain parcel has 2 options for something to happen, then perhaps we'd refer to the master plan to go more in that direction because it's been thought out. So
Yeah,
that's the reason why we have a master plan, is to basically have a guide of how we see the town happening in the next 5 to 10 years.
and I was talking to a court, like someone that does the same thing for me up in Kingsborough, and so they just did a master plan, and now they're doing a comprehensive zoning overlook of their town too. So it's this starting point. I know it's not going to happen overnight, but nothing should happen overnight. You have to think about what makes the most sense. And so I think this is a great starting point. So we'll take it from here and look at what everyone says, and I think it's gonna be great.
Do any planning board members have anything they want to ask at this point?
Actually, I do.
Bill?
If you didn't see the town council meeting last night, Erin presented this, and there was a lot of comments back and forth between town council members. So it might be worth, as a planning board member, if you didn't get to see that, to go back and watch it. The video is already up, recording.
All right. Erin, is it also possible to add a link on perhaps your page and the planning board page, just so people, the more places that point to that application process, the better?
The better. Yeah, no, definitely. I'll talk to Jen tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to item 4, which is continuation of our public forum on zoning around the lake. We have started this discussion to get input from property owners, business owners, and basically anyone in town who has any ideas on improvement of the experience around the lake, the improvement of businesses around the lake, and ways that we can meld the two into better lake protection. So this is the second forum on that, and what we're trying to do is get some ideas on if we are going to have a zoning change, what would be included, what would benefit the businesses around there, what would benefit the lake, and what would benefit the town overall. So I know, Bill, do you have anything you want to, you've been driving a lot of this. I don't know, anything you want to say at this point?
Excuse me. Not exactly. I don't know if we want to go through the map again. I know, if I remember correctly, Jim made a suggestion that we do look closer at the table and all the uses that are allowed in the limited business district, for example. But I really, obviously this forum time-wise is to really hear from the property owners or managers to really understand within our current zoning, what would they like to see improved? If there's any ideas for how to get more, I don't know, what did we talk about in the last meeting was pretty cool, is how can we improve the property value? And that was something of a direction where the lake really, and from the Vision 2030 sessions that we had, the lake clearly became the most important feature of our town. And if you have a business around the lake, how do you want to make that as a highlight? How do you draw people to your property between that? So there's people that live in Wakefield, but there's also people outside of Wakefield that we can draw. Sorry, I'm just got a pretty bad head cold. I did get a test and I am COVID negative, so I'm happy about that. But I have been self containing myself in this little room for a while. I don't know, Matt, was there more that you wanted me to show? Do you want me to share the map again or go through any of that?
I don't, you may want to highlight the map to show which property specifically that we're interested in hearing from property owners, and just so people that weren't with us the last time know roughly what we're, what is potentially areas that could be changed or
Sure.
enhanced.
Yeah, hey, Bill and Matt, before we do that, can we just make sure that we clarify and make sure everyone here understands what this process is not? That, we are not litigating the current project proposal at the head of the lake. That's
Mhm.
not the purview of this board, and we do not have, the jurisdiction over that project. So I think there might have been some confusion at the last meeting about, objections over, some statistics that are thrown out that appeared to be relevant to that project. But that's not what this is. This is talking about the underlying zoning and whether or not there's, looking forward, if there's other, restrictions or use allowances that may be superimposed on the existing zoning that currently is along the lake. I just wanted to make sure that was clear as we start this process.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I should also point out that whatever zoning change happens up there, there are ways that current owners can, lock in current zoning. So as much as restrictions on building might be, favorable to some, it can have a negative effect if it forces owners to, react and hastily develop without some good planning. So that's not our intention here. We don't want to force anyone to do something they don't want to do, but once a zoning change goes to town meeting, as you know, it can change drastically. So owners need to protect themselves. It's just kind of the fiscal way life is right now. So, all right. So if anyone would like to speak, again, I ask, we want to hear from people that haven't spoken yet. You can raise your hand and I will acknowledge you. And, you can speak.
Sorry, Matt, did you want me to share the maps first
Yeah.
to look at? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I want you to put that up real
That's okay.
quick.
No problem. Planning board meeting minutes. Okay. Can you see this all right? What does protect the lake mean?
Yep.
So this is what we went through and really narrowed it down to what's important about the lake business district, possibly map zoning, specify locations to focus on. So the business district across adjacent to Betts Field, North Ave from Yale to Church, like around that area, Prospect Street from North to Elm, and those properties, and business limited district on North Ave from Willard up to Route 128. So there's two different tables that really work with this, table 1 and table 2. Table 1 is really about the use and what's allowed. And for example, mixed use sidewalk cafe are not allowed or allowed only under certain special permits. So it's interesting to see, like, if we could look at that to see what's allowed in those areas, and maybe it's worth a look to see what else could we include as possible economic development. Table use of regulations, table 2, that's really about the density, the height, the setbacks and all that. So the areas we're looking at, here's the northeast top of the lake, the Lowell Street. So you can see neighborhood business and business. So this is Lowell Street going out to 128 here. Here is the actual like satellite map. So you can see the properties that we're talking about, the lake, playground area from the Quannapowitt Parkway coming in. So you can see Quannapowitt Parkway here, Lowell Street, the businesses that are in there. The northwest corner of the lake. So this is North Ave. I guess it's easier to show this. The satellite map, North Ave, Subaru across 150, Quannapowitt Parkway. And that area through here is business across on the west side of North Ave. And on the east side of North Ave, you'll see limited business. That's the lighter pink. And then that lower area, the southwest corner. And this is where I think, this is where I've been focusing on the most to make sure it's an opportunity. I don't know if you were in the town council meeting last night, but Idle Hands Brewery got an approval to have was it on the 25th, I think, a Saturday, to have to set up shop here near Vets Field for just like an open, fun brew pub type day. So Church Street runs here, turns to Prospect, North Ave coming down, Vets Field. So the properties here, laundromat, auto body, and auto and satellite safe light class. So as it runs down, so that's the other area that's all business. And if you're not sure what business means, neighborhood district, which would change the height limit maximum of 60 feet to 35 feet if that went to neighborhood business to business. So we're looking at like, what does it mean to have incentives to protect the lake? And in these 3 specific areas, how can we work with the property owners, property managers to look at creative ways to make it more economical, improve your property value. And this is our steps. So Matt, was there anything else you want me to share through this?
No, I think that's a good overview. Thank you,
Okay.
Bill. So,
And I can pull that up at any time if anybody wants to talk about or have more specific information.
okay. All right. Carla, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, and members of the planning board and the general public. I've been before you, gosh, about a year and a half ago now. It's been a while, maybe we're at the top of COVID. Pleasure to be back this evening. I'm an attorney with Sharon and Majen, 101 Federal, Boston, Mass. I'm here on behalf of WBAM Limited Partnership and Wakefield 200 LLC, both the owners of 50 Quannapowitt Parkway. We submitted a letter earlier today to the board, and I'd just like to read that into the record if I have a moment. To dear members of the board, we are the owners of 50 Quannapowitt Parkway, 4.55 acre parcel of vacant land situated at the corner of North Ave and Quannapowitt Parkway with no frontage on the lake, Quannapowitt. In connection with the planning board's consideration of potential zoning changes for properties surrounding the lake, we very much appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts as part of that process and as property owners that could be significantly and directly impacted by those zoning changes. We certainly understand the town conducting a thorough planning review of these zoning districts, as we are in agreement with the widely held sentiment of the lake's value as a unique amenity in this community. The Parkway properties are located in a limited business district in terms of the subject ones for us. In this district, the permitted uses are quite limited and constrained under the current underlying zoning. Under the use regulations, there are a total of 79 itemized uses. Of those uses, 45 of them are strictly prohibited and 15 of them are allowed only by special permit, leaving just 19 uses permitted by right. And of those by right uses, meaning you could just go in and get a building permit, 13 of them are in the residential category and include uses like railroad stations, government buildings, home occupations, and public utility buildings, all highly unlikely for future development. As such, development of our parcel would inevitably fall under the special permit process. Given that likelihood, the existing use regulations are already restricted in such a way to provide ample opportunity for thorough community review and input of any economically viable development of that property through the special permit process. It is also noteworthy that even though 50 Quannapowitt Parkway has 4.5 acres of land, the property has significant development challenges, as almost 1 acre of land is wetlands and has an odd shape generally. Accordingly, we would not be in favor of even more restrictive zoning changes to the district. However, we could definitely see the benefit of a zoning mechanism whereby the underlying zoning bylaw remains in place, but you create an overlay district that is created, to allow for mutual benefits. Property owners being able to develop their properties, different densities, whatever, but in exchange for providing specific public benefits to the community as part of those developments. And that would be further determined through a deliberative special permit process. Again, thank you for the opportunity to share these thoughts, and we look forward to the next steps.
All right, thank you, Carla. So is getting to what we're looking for, what would some changes, beneficial changes be for that property that you would like to see happen? Is there something that specifically that could be encompassed in a zoning change?
Not specifically, Mr. Chairman. I mean, we would be open to continuing to be part of this process. I think part of it is really just digging down and thinking about what the options are in terms of this. What are the trade-offs? And I do think that it is on a property by property basis that some of that happens. So having a fairly broad toolkit, so to speak, I don't mean to speak in euphemisms, but if you had that, that would allow for the planning board and the community members and applicants, developers of their various properties to almost select between them as appropriate for the properties. I mean, I make it sound easy, and I'm not trying to oversimplify it. It's not easy at all, right? That's the whole reason why you're having this process as open meetings. But I think if you wanted us to pull specific examples, I'm more than happy to come back with that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Bronwyn, I see you have your hand up. You have already spoken once, so I'm going to hold off on you. Just so bear with me. I will get to you, but I want to get people that have not talked yet. So, Margaret Cope, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I am Margaret Copey. I am the president of the Friends of Lake Quannapowitt, and I come tonight to speak on behalf of our board of directors. As you know, we're very interested in anything that occurs around the lake and have been for many years. The Friends of Lake Quannapowitt appreciates the actions the planning board has initiated in beginning the discussion on zoning around the lake. The lake is a very important resource for the town of Wakefield and will only remain so with efforts from the town, the current owners, potential developers, and the community. It is important to identify all the challenges to the lake area. FOLQ's mission is to protect the lake, to work to improve the water quality, and to continue to maintain or enhance the recreational benefits for the community. The combination of the substantial development in the town, as well as the future development around the lake, with increasing density, will have significant impacts to the health of the lake. FOLQ would like to establish a protection plan that includes allowing a recreational setback along the lake, requires development to improve and conserve the area, contributes to lakeside open space for public use, and aids the town of Wakefield's efforts to improve water quality. We will be happy to contribute and help with the discussion. Sincerely, the FOLQ Board of Directors.
All right. Thank you. I know access to the lake is something that we're all pushing for, so that is definitely a goal that we want to work towards. Anyone else want to speak before I start taking people that have already spoken? So, all right. So Bronwyn, Bronwyn, do you have something you'd like to contribute tonight?
I can yield to Joanne Schooler, who hasn't spoken yet, if you'd like.
You're speaking, so why don't you continue? So.
Okay, thank you. Yes. I was under the impression from some of the information that you offered at a previous meeting that tonight you'd finalize the text of the bylaw. Where are you at regarding that?
That was something that was a potential pathway to this that a couple of members have discussed, but we're still in the early stages of gathering information, so that's where we're at right now.
Okay. Has the deadline for hearing from businesses, did you set a deadline for that?
Nope, no deadline.
Okay, so that's still open then.
So even when and if there is some text and there's public meetings, there's always going to be input from people. So this is not, we're not stopping discussion at some point and then moving forward. This is just the first phase, and then we're going to decide going forward if we want to actually propose a zoning text and then hammer that out, and then it goes to public meeting, which people also have a chance to speak at.
Right. Oh, no, that's fine. I just was trying to get a little bit more of a solid timeline as to where you guys were. The only thing I have to add is what I've said before, is that I feel very strongly that this should be focusing on the protection of the lake as a natural, and as Margaret Copey said, a recreational resource for the town. And in doing so, I think that there should be some restrictions on future building, height, density, that kind of thing. But thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. All right, Joanne. Good to see you
Yeah.
here.
Hello, Joanne Schooler, 51A Chestnut Street. I'm wondering if you can clarify for people how long the current zoning is locked in for around the lake. Is it different in different areas? When you talk about the property values, in particular, the properties around the north side of the lake, can you clarify how long the current zoning is locked in for? Because I know the topic of reactionary development has come up as a concern, and I'm wondering how long that time frame is that they can develop under the current zoning.
Well, if property owners take the step of filing a definitive subdivision plan, that locks their current zoning in for 7 years. So not every property up there has done that yet, but depending on as we move forward, people could do that, and that process does not take that long. So once that, once they file a definitive plan, that basically locks in their zoning for 7 years. So again, that's an option that people will use if they need to.
So wasn't a subdivision plan locked in about a year ago for a number of properties at the top of the lake?
There are a few of them, yes.
So they're locked in for 7 years?
Yes. So that's why we're speaking of enhancements in order to give some benefits to the owners, so they do something to help protect the lake. Mere restrictions really don't always work. So that's why we're going about this in a methodical process to make sure that we're not triggering properties to hastily react. Does that help answer your question?
Kind of.
So do you see something that a zoning change could do to help enhance the lake and not force property owners to react? Is there, because that's what we're striving for here. We're looking for.
Well, I mean, I think 7 years is pretty long. I'd like to hear what Attorney McGrail has to say. He has his hand raised on it. Maybe it's on the same topic.
Yeah, that, the 7 year, that's in statute. So it's nothing that we can change. You'd have to go change the laws in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts if you wanted that corrected. So that's just something we have to work around and work with. So.
Yeah, I guess that's a long time to develop, so I wouldn't be so concerned with reactionary development if they have 7 years. That seems like a long time. That's just my feeling about it.
That's true, but there's also other ways to get around it, and we've seen that at one of the parcels up on North Ave where a zoning change went about to help them develop what many members on the board thought was a thoughtful process, and that was rejected, and now they're filing something that is a lot more units. So that's a reactionary development tactic that sometimes owners are forced to do. So that's what we're trying to avoid, any more of that. So do you have anything else, or is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Attorney McGrail, I see you have your hand raised.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Brian McGrail. I'm here tonight. I was here at the last meeting on behalf of the property owners at 599 607 North Ave, Lakeside Office Park. I am here tonight on behalf of 335 Washington Street LLC. 335 Washington Street LLC is the owner of the car dealerships, the GMC Buick dealership and the Subaru dealership, which Mr. Spalding referenced. And before I get into that, just to kind of spin off of what Joanne talked about, the zoning freeze for 7 years. Basically, the reactionary zoning development might not come immediately, but when people are protected for that 7-year period, if they're not pleased with what the zoning change is, I can guarantee you're going to see development spin off of that within that 7-year period. That will always happen. So again, I commend the planning board with the way you're going about this, being very thoughtful and trying to create something incentive laden for the property owners. It's a good working process. 335 Washington Street LLC is the owners of the properties at 610, 614, and 618 North Avenue. They purchased these properties I think it was about 2016 for a total of about $8 million. So they have a pretty significant investment on those sites in the town of Wakefield. I spoke with them today. The good thing about this property is they have no desire at this point to develop this property. They run two very successful, there are two very successful operating businesses there. The GMC Buick dealership, which they just signed up GMC, which is, I think, great for the town, great product in Buick, and great amenity for the people in Wakefield and surrounding communities to have that dealership available for purchases, leases, and service. And then we also at the site is a Subaru dealership, which provides great service to the community also. And they're very involved in the community, giving to various organizations, very charitable. And obviously they're very interested, being a property owner, not just running the business, on possibilities to increase their property value in the future, which is a subject matter before your board. So they are interested in that, as anyone would be. They're also interested in the positive incentives that were talked about. But one thing that I did have a discussion on, and I think it's important as the board works through this process, is any changes that happen to be aware or cognizant and analyze the impacts on legal non-conforming uses that are structures that are in place now. Because when you change that zoning, you can impact. So for example, these car dealerships are legal non-conforming uses, because I believe that they started operating as car dealerships prior to requiring a special permit in the district. And now if you were going to start new, you would need a special permit, but they're legal non-conforming uses. There's some legal non-conformities at the 607 599 site and also up on the Elm Street area. So whenever you change zoning, you can have impacts on these businesses and potentially affect their legal non-conforming status, the value of their property, and their ability to expand and grow their business in a natural way. So I'm not saying that's an issue because nothing's really been presented at this point, but I think it's something that should be looked at closely as everybody works with this process to make sure it's in sync. I think as far as comments that happened tonight, I think Margaret Copey said it very well on behalf of the Friends of the Lake Quannapowitt. There should be incentives. I mentioned this at the last meeting, and Attorney Moynihan, I believe, said the same thing. The board should really consider an overlay district to incentivize, to try to encourage property owners to develop the property in a fashion that the town wants. And some of my ideas, kind of what spin off of what Margaret talked about, you can incentivize by saying, instead of going through a special permit process, determine what will be good for these sites or some of these sites, and they don't have to all be the same. Maybe the ones with lakefront will be a little bit different than the ones that aren't lakefront. And to, potentially make some of these developments site plan approval projects where, you can say to the owner, you don't have to go through an arduous special permit process. If you fit our mold and meet our guidelines, we're gonna work with you to really make this a kind of a streamlined process, which is incredibly valuable for a property owner and someone that might want to develop the property. And some examples for consideration of the board as you work through this process would be, some of the public amenities that Margaret talked about. So for example, some of the lakefront properties, give us access, give us a path. Look at all the people that walk around North Ave when they're walking the lake. We've talked about this for years. I also represent another major property owner on that side of the lake that I haven't talked to, that I am going to talk to. And I'm doing some work for them now. And one of the incentives would be, hey, we'll work with you on development, but give our public access so we can have a path all the way around the lake. So we don't have herds of people on North Avenue out in the middle of traffic and rollerblading, that we can get everybody around the lake. That could be great. And then another thing that Margaret talked about is incentives for keeping the water clean, clean water. A lot of these properties along the lake, and this is a process that's going forward at 200 and 400 Quannapowitt Parkway, they're making significant improvements to the stormwater management. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why the Friends have been positive on that project, as they stated, because of the water quality in the lake. So that's another incentive that could be put in for folks to really up the standards, go above and beyond what DEP requires in stormwater management, make it even stricter and better, make certain contributions to the Clean Lake Fund. So that could be incentives that we put out there that with some benefits for ease of permitting. Not to say, oh, we're going to allow 400 more units or 500 more units if you do that, but to say, hey, if you fit these guidelines and do these things, you're not going to have to go through a difficult special permit process. And I think that is what should go forth. And I think your timing is impeccable with the master plan. I mentioned this at the last meeting. This should really dovetail into the master plan. It should be a point that should be brought up right to that consultant right out of the gate. And through these forums, you guys, I think, now have a lot of great information to provide the master plan. And the way not to do this is to force something, because people will protect their property rights, and you're going to create an adversarial situation, which isn't positive. You haven't done that yet, and I commend you for that. And Matt had mentioned that people have a way to protect. Make it that they don't need to protect. Bring them in and have all these discussions, and as you are, and continue to say, we want to work with you. You don't just put in a bylaw and say, hey, we're going to limit the height from 50 feet to 35 feet. With no rhyme or reason for that. That is not a productive way to go. I also think at the next meeting that I will be representing at least one of the properties up at Elm Street who is interested in being heard. So I'll be able to bring some feedback from that end, which is a little bit different because they reached out to me today. I commend you with the way you're going about this, and I hope you keep on doing that. And so now I have two clients that are ready, willing, and able to participate. The folks at 335 Washington Street LLC said that they're not here just to provide this, what I'm telling you now, but they're also here to participate through the process, whether that be continued public forums on this at your board or through the master plan process. And we're willing to make sure that we talk about the legal nonconformities and help you work through those issues, so that it doesn't hurt anybody unintentionally, have a real negative impact on a business. So thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Appreciate the time.
All right, thank you, Attorney McGrail. Does anyone else have any comments or anything else they'd like to add at this point? All right. Seeing any other hands raised at this point. So considering, so today's the 14th. We have one more meeting in September, which is the 28th. I was informed today that the cutoff for any town meeting articles need to be submitted by October 8th. So that would be 4 days before our second meeting from now. So I know, and Bill, I know you've been pushing to move this process forward. At this point, I don't see that we really have, at least from my point of view, a pathway forward for writing as an article. Is it, how are your feelings about this, Bill, and other board members?
I agree, Matt. I know we had a timeline that we planned back in maybe February or March, and then revised that, I think, maybe through April into June, really trying to figure out how to make best of our time, because really as a planning board, I feel it's very important, and it is on our shoulders to get the public, the pulse of the public. And my concern is that a lot of the people that do show up at our meetings, at a lot of meetings, or they're voicing their opinions on some of the community Facebook pages or whatever it might be, seems like it's a lot of the same 20 or 30 people, and we're not really getting a full sense of the town. I felt like the Vision 2030 really changed a lot of how I felt about participation, because we did get a huge amount of people across all types of people from the town. So I really like the diversity through that crowd. And I understand the importance of tapping into that type of support and voice. So I think moving forward, and as Attorney McGrail mentioned and Erin mentioned earlier, the master plan, I am just like out of my mind excited about the possibilities of what we can do. And as a planning board, how can we help to facilitate and guide this group moving forward with the MAPC? So I agree, Matt. This isn't something we should push through. We kind of lost our chance, I think, back in April and May when we stalled a little bit. But that's okay. I think we're getting this whole approach with having the property owners and managers involved. And I think that is going to be the best solution possible, because as we know, it's just we're looking forward to protect the lake, and in the best interest of that, I think that's the right process. I don't think we should push for town meeting to have some type of bylaw pushed through that could be changed on the floor. And if you haven't heard already, there's people in town that are saying, stop building, a moratorium on building in the town. Let's have that pass at town meeting. So I don't want our board to present anything that could trigger that at town meeting as well. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and I was part of the reason why this has taken longer, because I've been on the board a while, and I've heard all the comments about you haven't, and you're doing a zoning change and haven't involved people, you haven't talked to property owners. So I kind of did this methodical way of making sure that we reached out to them. We wrote them letters, we emailed them, we did everything we could to make sure we heard from them. So, and you know, I'm a little, I can say a little disappointed. We really haven't had many good ideas at this point. I know this is a process of getting people talking and getting them thinking about it. So perhaps we have, you know, primed the pumps for this, for the master plan, and then coming out of the master plan that we can get something productive out of it. So I don't know how the other board members feel about this. Anyone else want to comment?
I think, you know, I'm looking through my notes from the last two meetings, and I think the only items that we've heard back from the public are related to the building property owners who, to this point, I think for the most part, what I've heard is, you know, either keep the status quo, or we're interested in engaging with you guys once the board has something to say. I haven't really heard, and you know, or provide incentives for development, you know, as part of that process. But I haven't heard any concrete actual proposals. And from the public, you know, the only things I've really heard are, you know, basically sentiment to limit future development, and or, you know, the one gentleman who mentioned you know, a desire to eminent domain properties in order to build a park and a school, which I don't view as a viable pathway for this board to try to be advocating for. Beyond that, you know, I don't know if I've really heard a ton of actual ideas from the public based on these based on these forums to date. And so unless we as the board, you know, came up with what we thought were, you know, an overlay district, you know, that we thought was appropriate, I'm not really confident I could say with straight face that we've had a ton of quality feedback to date. So I don't know if I would be comfortable with, you know, putting something forward unless we felt there was strong consensus among the different board members about the different topics, or if we, you know, came up with at least a starting point in order to get, you know, feedback from the public as it relates to, you know, we think that X, Y, or Z, you know, restriction and or you know, incentive is a good starting point, and have that conversation. But I don't think we're at the point where we're ready for a town meeting or town, you know, engagement with the wider public until we do a little bit more of that process, frankly.
I do like the idea of an overlay district where we can somehow flesh out, and I think this is going to come through the master planning process of what we envision these sites can look at or look like, and then craft some overlay districts where we can help drive these by making sure they go through a process where perhaps we take out the ZBA and it's all approval through the planning board. So this is not something that is you know, quickly put together. It takes a lot of time and continued input. So I think that's where we're at right now. Theo, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I appreciate the comments, and I certainly appreciate the participation with, I think all in all, ourselves included, I think we had like 19 members of the public last session, and we've got at least 15 tonight. So that's a good start. One of the suggestions we got was a recreational setback from the lake. So that's definitely something to consider. And we've talked about you have incentives and you have trade-offs. So that's the revisiting table 1 and the types of permitted uses, I think, is helpful. I think Attorney Moynihan and Margaret suggested. We might want to think about maybe some more discrete questions that people could speak to. One of the things when back in May when we were trying to conceive of what an overlay district might be was sort of the geographic boundary. So that's certainly an area for discussion. I think part of the master planning really is doing visioning and choosing forms and how you might combine forms and building uses on sites, with conservation and recreation. And I think we maybe there are some starting points from Vision 2030 that we can pull out and use those with some visuals to help build up some conversation and some feedback around. Because that's what form-based planning really is. It is about agreeing about what some combinations might go well together and in particular spaces, so that you can then expedite permitting. That's exactly the benefit that businesses and other residents have been hoping to line up with more recreational access or limits to density or other things like that. So maybe that would help have a couple pointed questions and some images, and then invite people to, all right, this meeting we're going to do these two things, and the next meeting we're going to do a couple other things. And that could dovetail with the master planning process as well.
All right, thanks, Theo. And Megan, I don't know, I hate to limit you, but we only have a few minutes before we go into a public hearing. Anything to add?
No, I'm just in agreement with Bill. I don't think we have enough time in regards to the fall town meeting. And I would like the idea of hearing more suggestions from other property owners and different members of the town. So I think giving it more time would be beneficial. And I like what Jim had to say. So I think we wait and see, and then we determine, come January, what the best course of action is, whether it be working with the master plan or continuing on our path for potential a revision for the spring town meeting. So I think let's give ourselves some time and figure out what's the best course of action, but not rush towards making a decision for the fall town meeting.
Okay. So do we want to plan another forum for perhaps a couple of meetings from now so we can keep this process going? Because I think if while the master planning process is a good pathway, it does take some time. So we could be doing this basically at the same time, keeping this moving forward. So as we're going in with the master planning process, we can simultaneously be moving forward on this pathway and having some forms at the same time. Go ahead, Bill, I see you had your hand up.
Yep, I think I would propose that we continue this forum in the second meeting in October. And I would really like Theo's point about coming up with some general questions. Maybe that will spark some more feedback. And if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, maybe Theo and I can get together and pull some questions together and share them with the board, maybe at the next meeting or through you. And that's something that other members could add some other questions to. Or we can...
Line or anything? Jenny, all set?
Could you please mute yourself if you're...
I took care of it.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm usually on that. I usually mute people as soon as they come in. So again, just to say, I'd like to propose that we continue this forum in the last meeting in October, if that suits the board, and that maybe Theo and I can get together and drum up, I don't know, a dozen questions that might spark some feedback.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna tentatively set that we'll have a forum as noted, but during our next meeting we can, more formally set a time and a date that we're doing that. But we'll tentatively do it for 2 meetings from now, which would be October 26th, but we'll know better in the next meeting. All right.
And Bill, I'd like to raise my hand and volunteer. I'm more than happy to help you with developing any questions to solicit feedback from the public as well.
Well, that could work too. I know we can't have more than two of us meet together to do this, but if Megan, Jim, Matt, if you want to send thoughts of whatever questions you think might work to Theo and I, and then we can vet them and pull them together, that's fine.
That's fine. And then, you can have conversations individually with different people too. So.
Yep.
All right. Sounds good.
More is better.
Yep. Okay. So we're going to move on now to item 5. It is 8:01. This is a public hearing for a definitive subdivision plan for Stark Avenue. I think, Jill, are you representing the owner on
I
this?
am here.
Okay. So let me just give a little brief outline here. So Jill is going to present what they're proposing there. We will set some time for the board members to ask questions, and then we will open this up. It is a public hearing, so people have a chance to speak and give your thoughts on what you hear tonight. So, right, Jill, if you could introduce yourself and the project, I'd appreciate it. Do you have need to share the screen or?
Sure. Gonna try and so Jill Mann here on behalf of the applicant. Scott Green is the principal of the applicant, and what he's basically done is assembled 3 separate lots located off of Stark Avenue. I think as his board understands and knows that Stark Avenue actually has quite a few homes on it and quite a few homes on the back end that is undeveloped. I'm going to share my screen right now so that I can show you. I was hoping to actually have the engineer was going to try and show you some stuff as well, but I'm going to do that. Can you actually see my screen right now?
So Matt, I don't know if you need to make Jill a co-host for her to be able to.
I thought I was able to. I think, okay, maybe I'm not screen sharing. Here we go. Let's see. Host disabled host disabled participants sharing. So I think you need to enable it right now. I'm going to get something from Peter too.
Why don't you try that now?
There we go. Okay. Very odd. You know what? I'm just going to keep talking because honestly, it won't allow me to share. Oh, here we go. Okay, I've selected it. Now you can see it. Can you not?
Yep, there it is.
Excellent, excellent. Sorry for that. So again, Jill Mann here on behalf of the applicant. I am an attorney that practices out of Middleton, out of the law firm of Mann & Mann. I'm located at 191 South Main Street. I'm here on behalf of the applicant to present this particular project. As I had originally stated, Stark Avenue is part of a very old historic subdivision. It predates subdivision control. So it's essentially, basically still constitutes a street, but a paper street that is completely undeveloped from the point I'm going to actually annotate from this point, which is actually the end of the public way, over. It becomes, as you can well tell, based on the description provided for us by the illustrious engineer, it's a paper street from that point forward. So what we are proposing to do is to actually assemble lots. So the lots that are under agreement presently to be developed are the lots that are shown striped on the plan. They consist of approximately a little bit over, an acre and a half of land. So as we go down, and I will show you how we actually are planning to undertake this development. So Stark Avenue is a straight road that just goes back without any meandering, any traffic calming. You know, as road design has improved, people have incorporated a little bit of bend in order to have some traffic calming measures instead of having straightaway. While this will have that secondary effect of allowing some traffic calming measures and not being a straightaway, it also provides the ability to actually incorporate stormwater. So this particular lot has a lot of wetlands in the northern, in this, the northern corner. I'm going to show that to you on this plan. So you can see on this particular plan where the wetlands are located, and they're located right here. So this particular property has a lot of wetland located to, I think that is the north on the plan. Essentially, the plan is to take the street and have a slight bend to it, and then to provide the cul-de-sac, which is originally provided on this portion of the plan. So as the property exists to date, it's a straight street with a turnaround. I wouldn't call it a cul-de-sac. It's simply a turnaround that the fire department has indicated is sufficient to allow a turning radius for the currently sized vehicles. And that's what exists right here. So what we're proposing to do is to actually eliminate that turnaround and to extend the street. So we would resurface some of the area just so that it would blend in with the street, and then provide for grass along the sides of the road where there was otherwise a turnaround. So essentially you have the progression and traffic would flow down the street. And then we do provide, as you see in this particular area, we do provide the turnaround again. Again, same exact thing, just to be able to provide for vehicles to turn. What we're proposing to do is move the roadway, as I said, to be able to provide for better stormwater, which is over here, and to be able to put a home on this lot in a comfortable manner. I mean, it's only, we're going to combine those 3 lots and make it essentially a 1 building lot. And then the roadway that would dip has no real effect on the properties that are set forth below. And I'm going to show you that by just going up. In the plan above. Oh, for some reason I'm not able to, there we go. So I think this is sometimes a little bit better of a view, just so that we can all see it together. Basically, under your subdivision rules and regulations, you have a provision that says, you know, look, this is what the board has within its purview, adequate access for lots that truly have none. So this lot does not have adequate access. It's a paper street. It isn't a subdivision, though, pursuant to subdivision control law or even your subdivision rules and regulations, because the lots truly do exist. And subdivision control specifically exempts this type of project from being deemed to be a subdivision. But Wakefield, it's my understanding from Mr. Renault that Wakefield doesn't have a process for adequate access bylaw, pursuant to which you file and comply with the subdivision rules to the extent you can. So we were just instructed to file a definitive, which in fact we did. Basically, we've asked for a number of waivers because on a paper street that already exists, you're not going to be able to meet all of the criteria for installing a new subdivision roadway. It's not possible to do because it's already been laid out and the lot's created. So what we have done is to create what we consider to be a safe access point to be able to get from one end of Stark Avenue to the turnaround that was designed by the engineer, and to provide adequate and safe access to those existing lots. We do note that there is and was a proposal, I don't know if it's a proposal, a reservation that would have allowed for the street to be a continuous way. So instead of having a turnaround here, there is the ability to actually take the street and come up and go and connect to Molly. You can see it right here. That is not our intent. I'm simply bringing it up because it's on the plan. We're not trying to create more issues and go through somebody's backyard and create a street. I'm just merely pointing out what was on the plan and what a prior board had done. When Molly was put in, a prior board did what is not required, but what is deemed to be best practice for subdivision control law, which is to never allow land not to provide through streets and connections. And that's what this particular easement did. But again, this is only being extended for, a distance of somewhere maybe around 300 feet and only to provide access for 3 homes. So one would assume if you build to the same quality and improve the stormwater aspects of Stark Avenue, that it is providing adequate access for these 3 lots. And again, it's combination of 1A, 1B, 1C right in this area. I can't, if I don't annotate, it's hard to tell. Right in this area, and I can go back to the other plan, and then a home and a home. And that is clearly shown on the plans that exist below. And I'm sorry, I have to actually, right here, I think this is a better plan to show. I just want to get rid of those markings so you can see it better. So basically, we comply with all of the requirements for submittal. We show what the waivers are. We basically ask for a number of waivers, and they're delineated on a separate submittal. We provided for you the engineer's certificate. We provided, all of the required documents, the demonstration of authority, as well as a full set of plans and a stormwater report. Because clearly, no matter what, we are required to comply with current stormwater standards to ensure that the project does not create downhill issues for anybody who would be receiving water from us. And that has been done by Mr. Blaisdell, who is the engineer responsible. I forgot to mention that. William Spraggis is the site design engineer that actually put together this plan for Mr. Green. At this point, that really sums everything up. We haven't received any comments back from the engineering. And we haven't received any comments from any of the department heads. So this basically is our presentation, and we'd welcome any questions or comments you may have this evening. Thank you for your time. And Peter is on the call as well, Mr. Blaisdell from Williams Bradges, if you had an engineering related question for him. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is your contention that this is not a definitive subdivision that you're going for here?
Well, we did apply for a definitive subdivision because your regulations don't have something to apply for simply gaining adequate access for properties that have already been subdivided. So subdivision pursuant to the subdivision control law is any lot of land that is not shown on a plan either prior to subdivision control, all of that stuff. This is actually on a plan prior to subdivision control. It's simply a paper street. So we've applied through your subdivision control. That's the way we're asked to do it, and that's the way we did it.
Okay, so pursuant to the rules and regulations for a definitive subdivision plan, there are a number of sheets that are required. And are you looking for waivers from those, or?
We're looking for a number of waivers. Yeah. So, the list of waivers is not insubstantial because of, I apologize, I'm going to share it with you, because of basically the existing nature of the road that we abut to and the property in itself. So we're asking for a waiver from a number of the applicable requirements. So I'm unsure, Mr. Lowry, which plan sets which plan sheets we would be missing, but here is basically, that's just the form and content. That's not it. We are asking for a number of
okay.
Waivers. I don't know which plans are missing necessarily.
Okay. Well, the first thing I ask is that the waivers need to be on the plans. We cannot simply have them on an unreferenced attached document, undated, because there's no way to track that. So those waivers would need to be on the face of the plan, as we have done in our previous plans sets.
Not a problem.
So,
We absolutely can do that. The bylaw does require that you provide a separate set as well, but I understand that you want them on the plan, and we most certainly will do that.
okay. Yeah, because we need to track that.
Absolutely.
All right. So per the Wakefield rules and regulations, section 20-10, subsection C, form and content. The definitive plan set shall be provided from a registered engineer or certain surveyor, which you have done.
Yep.
The definitive plan set submissions shall contain the following information. And A is I've gone through most of those. You seem to have that. The specific sheets that are needed are, one, an existing condition and demolition plan. Are you looking for a waiver from that, or are you going to provide one of those?
Existing conditions plan, there is no demo plan because there's nothing on those particular properties. So Peter, can you please address Mr. Lowry's comments relative to why there is no existing condition plan?
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Pete Blaisdell from Williams and Sparagus. So, Mr. Chairman, we essentially tried to put together the 10 biggest waivers that went along with this plan, with the idea that this was a preliminary list and that we would be revising it as we went along. It didn't seem prudent to just go through and just ask for a complete waiver of the entire rules and regulations. So we were proceeding as we've done in the past with similar projects, that we would develop major and then kind of work them out as we went along. But as Attorney Mann mentioned, all the existing conditions, the topo, the shot, and that type of thing are on the topographic plan, but there isn't anything to demo.
Okay, but you're mixing your existing conditions with basically proposed plan, correct?
Yes, they share the same information. Yes.
Okay, but we kind of need an existing conditions plan to know what exists before you start overlaying items on top of that. So
I think we can easily separate out like the layers and give you an existing conditions plan. I don't think we need to get a waiver from that. I think it's something you want and we can provide that. Absolutely.
okay, so going through that, there are a number of items you're going to comply with. Basically, all these as you go through. Have you gone through this list?
I apologize.
All right. So existing conditions and demolition plan.
Yep.
Obviously, if you're not demo anything,
No.
you don't need to do that. But you need to have all items listed under general information in 320-C. Sorry, 320-10C 2A. We need to go through that list now, but I believe you have most everything in there. But you're also supposed to have existing contours at 2-foot intervals, existing spot elevations at a 50-foot grid, location of all planimetric features, which it appears you have. It's just obscured by your proposed things. Rock outcroppings, location and caliper of species of all existing trees that are 8 inches or above.
That we did request a waiver from because we're taking them down all in one area. So we just say within the development area where there are trees, they're coming down.
So basically you're clear cutting most of the lot because your limit of work line is right up to the lot line.
Where we show that we're definitely in the back, you can see we are. In the front, I apologize, I shouldn't say back and front. To the north, you can see we are not, and to the south, you can see we are. Yes.
Okay. So you're asking for a waiver because you're just going to cut all the trees down.
Yep.
Basically. Okay.
Yes.
Just, consistent with many of the past subdivisions, actually, I think all of the past subdivisions.
Sure.
We have learned that if you cut all the trees down on the site, the crown that's exposed, it takes the brunt of any wind, any forces that get in there. If you leave all the trees just on the abutters land, they're the ones that are going to get all the damage from it. So what we've been doing is asking for a buffer of trees to be left around the perimeter on your property. So they're the ones that are going to take the brunt of any winds, any damage, any root loss because of excavation. So I myself, I'm not going to probably waiver from this. So
So I mean, what's the buffer normally? Can you tell us that?
well, it depends on the type of trees that are in there, basically. So
I meant the breadth. I apologize. Like the maybe the width of the buffer. What is normally?
well, again, you know, if there's some large trees that are 2 feet off the lot line, they may, if there are some that are 10 foot off, they may be held. It depends if you're going to excavate right up against a tree. That will depend if it's going to be saved or not. So that's why we need to have the trees shown on the plan so we know what that buffer may be.
So maybe what we do, if Mr. Lowry, is show the trees within the buffer, because as I said, it's kind of, I mean, all we're going to do is show trees. But we can show you what trees, more in keeping of what the subdivision says, in the buffer around, so we can do that.
All right. So there are also trees within the right of way. Are you going to take all those trees out within the right of way, basically from the end of Stark Ave forward, or to the end of the project?
So the
Yes.
trees in the right of way will go out because we have to grade for it, right, Peter?
That is correct.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're proposing to take out all the trees within the right of way there. Okay.
Right, exactly the way it is down the street. Yep.
Okay. All right. So moving on to the next required plan, a context plan certified by a registered professional civil engineer and showing the land within 500 feet of any part of the development tract that is subject to the application and shows. Are you asking for a waiver from that also?
Not specifically. We do show a cover sheet that shows
Here's the
quite a
context.
bit of distance around the. I'm not sure of the scale of that. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm doing this from my car tonight, but
It's 600 feet, Peter.
I'm sorry.
It's 600 feet.
Okay. If a context sheet is sort of similar to what we're showing there as a cover sheet that shows the area and the neighborhood around it, then that's what we end up doing for a vicinity map. And then we blew it up a little bit more, I think, to 1 inch equals 100, showing Molly Circle and the other neighborhoods around us.
So you're showing every property within 500 feet on this plan?
I didn't specifically go 500 feet. I went about as far as I could to keep everything legible, but I can certainly check that.
Okay, so are you gonna, is this plan gonna be included, or are you gonna ask for a waiver from it? What are we talking about here?
Well, I can certainly, if you don't think that this plan is sufficient, then I can certainly go back in and add it.
Yeah, well,
I think what
Or I
you're
can-
saying,
Or I can request a waiver for it.
so I think what you're saying, Mr. Lowry, is you really need for us to, I mean, I hate to have you go through this like this. So maybe what we really needed to do was to go through this aspect and determine what we're seeking the waiver from and tell you, because, you know, we do show, my guess is this is all within 500 feet, because this distance here along Stark Avenue is 300 feet. So you're probably showing within 500, but there's no way for you to tell other than, you know, we have a vicinity map, but that's 1 inch is 600. How can you really tell? So, I mean, I guess, you know, going through this aspect of it, I don't know if it's, if you want to continue, that's fine with me to do it, but it may be more prudent for us to do it.
okay. So, you know, I guess you'll go through the site construction plan, the utility plan, all of that, correct?
Yes.
In
I
either-
think, yeah, we're on utilities, we simply show, Peter, isn't this on this sheet?
Yes, the plan and profile shows all the utilities that are there with connections.
Okay. So one thing, Attorney Mann, you said drainage report was submitted?
I thought it
No.
was. Oh,
No, Mr. Chairman, one of the waivers that we asked for was for a drainage report, and the reason for that is when we spoke with Mr. Renault, and I believe Attorney Mann met with him, we talked about the idea of pitching a low impact development to the board. However, we weren't sure if the board was going to be able to grant these waivers, that type of thing. So what we decided to do was to ask for a waiver for that now, because we still have to file a full stormwater report with the Conservation Commission, which is going to be provided to the town engineer as well, which will have the same information in it.
and I apologize. I thought that had been filed. My mistake. I was under the impression it had, so that's my fault.
Okay,
No,
so,
that's okay.
so one has been done, correct? Because I presume one was done in order for you to design this?
No, we did a drainage design with the idea that we were going to ask the board if they would, so you have to grant a waiver for basically the whole typical cross section for a Wakefield road. We're not putting in curbs, we're not putting in catch basins, we're not putting in water quality inlets. This is going to be a low impact development. So if you're not going to give the waivers for it, there's no reason to do calculations. It would just be a waste. So if you said, no, we're not going to waive the cross sections, we're going to have to go back and do deep sump catch basins and that type of thing. And then I would be providing a full drainage analysis.
So do you know your design works without a
Yeah.
drainage report?
Do I know it? Yes, it will work. It would require some modification, but I've done 6 low impact developments in the last year in all around Wakefield that have had the same type of design with the same type of success. It's just we have to find out first if the board would even entertain doing a low impact development. Unfortunately, towns don't have that type of provision typically where we could just follow the rules. We have to ask for waivers for everything.
All right, do you want to explain what a low impact development is to the board?
Sure, I'll be brief. Essentially, driving up through any place outside of 495 in Massachusetts, a lot of towns in New Hampshire and Maine, essentially called country drainage. So everything will sheet to the side to grass swales, constructed infiltration swales with perforated pipes. The driveways will pitch to one side, same thing, to separate stone infiltration trenches, and the roof runoff would be discharged to its own separate roof infiltration systems, either surface or underground. So essentially what you're doing is, instead of concentrating everything into a pipe, which then discharges to one point, you're spreading the runoff around the site as if it were, again, we're not going to say natural because it's wooded now and it's not going to be wooded afterwards. But the idea is to take the runoff and spread it around the site as opposed to just charging it through one pipe at the end of the project.
All right, so so as you mentioned, that there's no water quality controls on this?
So the infiltration trenches themselves and the stone trenches are designed to have water quality built into them. There's typically a tight choker course at the top that's wrapped in filter fabric that would receive the first part of the flush from the rain. Then that filters down into stone. And then from there, it gets a better opportunity to get back down into the groundwater. So essentially it's being cleaned more naturally, as opposed to a deep sump catch basin, to a water quality inlet, and then to a drainage pond.
Okay,
We are showing one small drainage pond on the north side of the property, which would be for any overflow that would come out of the roadway or the trenches. Excuse me.
okay. All right, well, I'm not going to go through the other list of plans and items. You can go through that, and what we will need is a complete list of waivers you will be looking for. So, if you're not looking for curbing, we need to have the item, that you're not looking for curbing, not just basically the cross section. You want waivers from everything shown on the cross section. Is
Yeah,
basically what you're asking for.
We did ask for a request for a waiver for 320 section 18 streets, which was design standards, streets, alignments, widths, grades, construction, sidewalks. We can expand upon it. That's
okay.
I just didn't know how much detail you wanted me to go in. I didn't want to take the entire rules and regulations and go through section by section, but if that's what you'd like, we can certainly do that. Like I said, this list was just to discuss. We can go into more depth if you would like.
Okay. And I know we did get some comments from other town departments. We just got them, so I don't think they've been sent to you. But Attorney Mann, you were saying that the cul-de-sac currently is acceptable that's constructed out there? Is she still here?
I'm not sure.
Hi, I am here. Hello?
We got you,
Can
Jill.
you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I apologize. I had to switch to my phone. Peter and I are kind of playing tag, I think. So the cul-de-sac as it exists presently is used and provides adequate access to the lots that exist to date. So we were simply repeating that design by moving the cul-de-sac down to where our project then ends, where the pavement would end. So that is what I was indicating. We have not received comments from the fire department to confirm that particular cul-de-sac is sufficient, but it's sufficient currently.
All right. Peter, have you put a turning radius on that cul-de-sac to see if a fire truck can turn in that?
No, not yet. We were going to see what the comments were coming back from the fire department, and I don't even know if we have the most up-to-date information on Wakefield's apparatus. So I'm sure we'll be getting that, and then once we do that, we can run that through an auto turn to see how that works.
Because that was one of the comments from the fire department, is that they were requesting a cul-de-sac capable of accommodating a fire department's apparatus be constructed at the end of the street to allow them to turn around. So that needs to be looked at. So
we will look at that.
All right. So even so, you're extending the same cul-de-sac 400 feet further down the road, but you're going to have a gravel cul-de-sac, not pavement?
That was one of our discussions, just to try to reduce, because of the proximity. And one of the things that Attorney Mann probably mentioned earlier was one of the reasons for driving this realignment of the roadway was to try to get everything a little bit further away from the wetlands. So one of the ideas that with low impact development is using gravel in some areas, just because it's still a solid base and it doesn't produce as much runoff towards the wetlands. If it's deemed that that's not acceptable, then we have room. We can change it to paved. It's just a technique that we've used just to try to reduce. This is all about trying to reduce runoff and reduce the amount of stormwater runoff that heads towards the wetlands.
Okay. I only have a couple more questions at this point. Then I want to let other members speak. So you're calling this a roadway realignment, but you're constructing a new roadway. So why is it a roadway realignment when no road exists there?
Sure, basically because it's a realignment of the street shown on it. Excuse me. So it does show, and it's a recorded plan. So in order to change it, you actually have to realign that which existed on the prior plan. So you're modifying that plan.
All right, but there's no roadway there. It's a paper street. There's no access. There's.
It isn't, but you have it. Well, there. Okay, so there is access off of that public way that just ends early. The roadway was never completed, and it is. That's what I mean. This is a real oddity, because you have a public street that intersects with this particular unpaved subdivision street that is just completely and totally unimproved.
Well, I would counter, it's not really an oddity. There's a lot of paper streets in Wakefield that aren't constructed, so. And then the last thing I'm curious about, so what's the length of Stark Ave right now?
What's the length of Stark Ave from its origin?
Yes.
I'd have to look that up. I have the plan, but I don't have it at the top of my head.
All right, I think it's about 1,400 feet. So you're proposing to add another 400 feet to it?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So you're looking for a waiver from the length of a cul-de-sac then too, correct?
Would we be looking for a waiver for a length of dead-end street? Yes. In a sense.
It is, but it's yes. I mean, we're going to, because we're applying under subdivision control. And I don't believe I don't know. I think when the other street was extended in the cul-de-sac installed, I'm uncertain that there was ever a request for a waiver to do so because it's showing the plan. It's in accordance with the plan. So yeah, we can actually ask for that waiver.
Okay, well, that plan was done in 1958, right? So I don't think there are any standards.
I do understand. It's just, I get it. And that's why a lot of streets that are built, prior or shown on a plan are, to me, oddities because, they aren't subdivisions when you come forward with new plans showing the street. They simply are not. The law protects them. But you need to build an adequate access to provide for them. And the method pursuant to which to do that in the town of Wakefield is simply subdivision control application. Because normally you submit an 81G, which is the roadway improvement plan, but that doesn't pertain here. That's why, for me, it's a little different than the norm.
Okay. All right. I've got nothing, no other further questions. Again, we're going to need to have, you need to go through the plan set and update what's required or ask for waivers on those. And then the waivers, again, need to be shown on the plan so we can track them. So.
Absolutely. We'll scrub the plans and we'll scrub the regulations to ensure you have a full and complete list.
Okay. Any other board members have anything, any comments at this point? All right, Bill Spalding.
Yes, excuse me. Thanks, Matt. When do we want to see this plan again with the revisions made to it? Because I know if the comments are just coming back from the other town departments, how do those get sent to the engineer? Is it something that we send to them, or is it going directly from our engineering department to the client, to the engineer?
I'm gonna get those together. I only got the DPW comments tonight at 5:15. So
Right.
And then the other ones came in a couple days ago. So we probably should have sent those on right away, but we've been all pretty busy. So so yeah.
With that though, is that something that our board sends to the engineer and the applicant, or does the town engineering department, are they responsible for forwarding it? I can't remember what the process is. I just want to make sure they get it.
No, we will send them along.
Okay.
So the board will. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other board members have anything? Any other comments at this point?
I guess I had a question in regards to like clarification on whether, Bill just asked in regards to like also the memo from the Conservation Commission, like in their comments, if that's been forwarded on or provided, because we just got that information as well.
No, that hasn't been forwarded. So my other question is, are you filing this with the Conservation Commission consecutively with, soon, or when is this being filed with the Conservation Commission?
We were hoping to get an idea tonight after the planning board, just how what was received, whether we needed to do a major overhaul on it or if we were just going to go ahead. So we're planning on filing a notice of intent, I'd say within the next couple of weeks, but we wanted to get some initial comments back from the town first, just to save the Conservation Commission's time as well, not giving them a plan that was going to have to be completely changed over.
Okay. So we do have some comments. Let me, I apologize. I've got a lot of plans opened up here.
That's okay.
Matt, I can pull those up if you want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you could do that, Bill, you seem to be a little more savvy with technology than I am, so.
Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Yes.
So this is from Elaine, the chair of the Conservation Commission, and she has 3 points here that she shared. The first is work in this area occurs within 100 foot of resource areas, and so will require the filing of notices of intent with the Conservation Commission. The lot shown at the top of the plan does not confirm, I think, to the Commission's policy of a 25-foot no disturb zone. If that is proposed grading, spillway, and vegetation removal. The roadway is located within the 25-foot no disturb buffer and contains a turnaround and a retaining wall. So it's that, well, I guess that's it from the concerns of the commission, Conservation Commission.
Yeah, and I point out that is basically, that was just an email that was sent along. It wasn't quite a formal letter. So,
Right.
No problem.
So we did get one from the police department. Let me see if I can find that. They had no issues with the subdivision. 4 additional lots at the end of Stark Ave will not generate enough traffic to have a significant impact. Let me pull up the fire department one. Do you have that one handy, Bill?
The fire department requested a installation of a fire hydrant at the end of Stark Ave, as well as, actually, let me see if I can pull it up. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm requesting the installation of a fire hydrant at or near the end of Stark Ave proposed subdivision, which I've gone through and looked. I think there might be an existing fire hydrant near the end of Stark Ave currently. So I think that's something that'd be good to understand. In addition, Stark Avenue is, to my knowledge, the longest dead end street in Wakefield. I believe that the water main supplying this residential street is a dead end main. I'm concerned of the available fire flow of any hydrant at or near the end of the street, and respectfully request that the town of Wakefield or a consultant retained by the developer conduct a flow test of the closest hydrants to this property for the purposes of establishing the available water supply for firefighting purposes of the area. I am concerned that there will not be sufficient water supply to extinguish a significant fire in the area of the proposed subdivision. And the third comment from the fire department is, I also respectfully request the planning board that any residence constructed at the end of Stark Ave be required to be fully equipped with a residential fire sprinkler system that complies with NFPA standard 13D. The long dead end water main, combined with the fact that at least 2 of these residents can be accessed via long, narrow, and steep driveways, would result in a significant delay in the department's ability to access in a fire of these residents via hose lines. The fire sprinkler system can be supplemented by water well or water supply reserve tank as specified in NFPA 13D if necessary. And then the last comment from the department was, I'm also requesting that a cul-de-sac capable of accommodating the department's fire apparatus be constructed at the end of the street to allow them to turn around in. The town's engineering department has a template specifying the dimensions of the cul-de-sac should be, and the cul-de-sac at the end of the Stark Avenue would be a great benefit to the neighborhood for additional reasons incorporated.
All right, thank you, Jim. So the DPW memo is 6 pages long, so I'm not going to try to read that. I will forward this to the other members. Again, I apologize for getting it at a late date, and to the developer for them to review. All right. Bill, you had those comments. Theo, Megan, Jim, do you have anything else to add at this point? Okay. So just so people that are tuning in, we're in the start of a process here, so we're not about to make any decisions, and the developer has some work to do on these plans, but your input on this roadway and in this subdivision is crucial to our decision. So we ask that if you have any information to share, that we'd like to hear it. So if you raise your hand, you'll be acknowledged, and state your name, where you live. Again, if you could turn your video on when you speak, that would be appreciated. So does anyone have anything they'd like to add at this point? Bronwyn, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. How many lots
Excuse me,
is this going to be?
Bronwyn.
Yes?
I need your name and address.
I'm sorry,
and all that
Bronwyn
stuff.
Delavolpe, 8 Cyrus Street, Wakefield. Thank you. How many lots is this going to be?
It's going to be 3 residential lots.
Okay, and how many houses?
3.
Single family?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, through you, if I'd like to ask just a quick question, background question to Mr. Blaisdell, that he said he's been involved in some other low impact projects in Wakefield. Could he say which ones those are?
No, I think you misheard me. I've been involved in other low impact developments in other towns around Wakefield. I don't know that I've actually done one in Wakefield.
Oh, okay.
Other than I've done a couple of conversions of surface ponds to subsurface ponds, that type of thing, which is sometimes considered low impact development. I have not done a low impact development subdivision in Wakefield.
Oh, okay. I did misunderstand you. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, and Mr. Chairman, other people have come to develop this area before, and I believe have been denied. Or are there any consistent reasons for those denials? Can you say?
They haven't met our standards, so some of them have just been approval not required plans. So there was another subdivision that was before my time, I believe. So I don't think, there's nothing consistent that I can point to.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And some of these reports and emails and stuff from the other town departments are interesting. And what Mr. Hogan read, what I found very helpful. Will any of that information be available to the public? Or posted on your website or
I
within
don't
the
know.
minutes, maybe?
I don't know if we're going to post each of those, unfortunately, because we cannot post every bit of information we have, but there are public documents that are available from each department.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you. All right. James Rica.
James Shrisha, 11 Molly Circle.
Okay.
So I have some concerns about mainly the wetlands behind the home, behind my house specifically. The stormwater runs off from Mount Pleasant. There's also stormwater runoff through Molly Circle, comes down behind the house, some makeshift culvert that was done by, I believe it was a former owner on Andrew Dorney's property, which I believe was Galucci. And that comes in and that all meets with Stock Ave's water runoff and flows along this property, Andrew Dorney's property, which is, and I don't know the address. My real concern is this low impact development that you're trying to do is basically going to flood our backyards. And the water table is extremely high as it is. As it stands right now, there's 2 inches of standing water out there from rain 2 nights ago. So this is a huge concern without having proper drainage. Given the way the grade is, it's just really, this is a major concern. I mean, you can see during any rainstorm, the way the water comes out of Stock Ave and the way it trickles down behind our properties on 14 and 11 Molly Circle. That's my that's my first concern. And also, where will you be getting the utilities, water utilities? Are these all going to be extended from Stark Ave? Will they be coming from Molly Circle?
So relative, this is Jill Mann, relative to, your concerns about flooding, I understand everybody gets nervous about that, but we are complying with stormwater management policies and regulations. And so we aren't permitted to increase the water that's going to be flowing to your property. So there won't be a negative impact because we will comply with regulations. And then relative to how we are going to connect utilities, we are not presently considering using Molly, although there is the right to do it. There is an easement that extends. We plan on, and Peter, correct me if I'm incorrect, but we plan on connecting via Stark Avenue and those utilities that exist in that roadway presently.
So there's already, excuse me, this is Peter again. There's already an existing sewer trunk that runs down Stark Ave and then connects over to Molly. So that would be staying in place, and we'd just be connecting to that as if there were normal connection to a sewer line. The water main does currently end at the end of Stark Ave. We'd be picking up from that and extending it out. All our drainage would be handled on site. There is drainage, as I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher your name, Mr. Freesia had mentioned. There's a large culvert that goes underneath the roadway that was designed years ago. I'm not sure when it was put in, but it does take a lot of runoff that comes from the south and then transfers that to the north. And then from there, it runs along the properties in between Molly Circle. And then there's another neighborhood to the west. Ultimately, I tried to track it down exactly where it goes, but Wakefield, as you know, is, over the years, things get filled and pipes get put in and that type of thing. So it's kind of hard to figure out exactly where it goes ultimately.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Alyssa Story, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, can I talk from my mother?
There we go.
Two of you have audio on. One of them needs to shut it off.
Hold on, we're shutting one down. Okay, are you there now?
Yeah, who is this?
Hello?
Hello, yeah. One of the stories.
Hello?
Something to add? Hello, yes, go ahead.
No.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear us, Macy?
Yes, I can. Give me
All right.
one moment. I'm just trying to get the audio to work for you guys. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Who's
Okay.
speaking?
Alyssa Story from 50 Stark Ave.
Okay.
And I have the same concerns that Jim Freesia has about the flooding.
And there's a stream that runs down the hill going straight into that. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know what it was ever named, but it's like a, gully of water that does also right behind Jim's house is full of water. And there's wetlands and conservation land all around there. So when is this going to go through the conservation committee? Because when you're talking about waiving all of these things so that you can do a quote low impact subdivision or whatever it is you're looking for, I have a huge problem to just waiving a bucket load of requirements when it does affect our property and it affects our road. And I'd like to know if you're going before the conservation committee, and also if we're going to be able to see this list of waivers that you're looking for publicly. Will you post those?
Yeah, that's why we're trying to get them on the plan. So I think you can, I don't know if you can see my screen now. I have a GIS map up of this. So you're at number 50, right in here?
Yes.
Okay. So where are you saying your flooding concern is behind you here through this, basically right in here?
It comes all the way down from,
Okay.
yes. There's a stream, and then the water that's runoff goes behind Molly Circle. That whole area is like wood with water in it, basically. And that's where you're looking to put the two houses. And there's conservation land, like that big lot that's right to, I don't know, it's the funny looking shaped lot that's,
This lot here?
yes, that
Yeah.
one that's all conservation land. So are you gonna go through that to make a road?
No, we're not developing that lot.
No, that's not what I asked. Are you going through that conservation
going-
land to make the road?
No, the road is going to stay in the layout until it gets onto our property, and then it's going to take a shift to, I guess you'd say, the south or up the hill, and then come back and become tangent down at the east end, down heading more towards Goldie.
Okay, so what about the conservation committee? Are you submitting this to them?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And is your idea to create a larger cul-de-sac at the end that is stone?
Our hope was to create an area that an emergency vehicle could safely turn around, but not have the amount of pavement that you would normally find in a cul-de-sac, like say, Molly Circle, for instance, that has a 100-foot diameter paved circle that produces a lot of runoff. So we'd like to do a trade-off. We'd like to still be able to operate a vehicle, but at the same time, not produce a lot of runoff.
Okay, because we have a lot of traffic on this street as it is, living right at the end. I don't have any night, if not more, come down just to turn around at that half a cul-de-sac where it is now.
Yeah, well,
So
that half a cul-de-sac, that was designed years ago, and the idea was that's a temporary turnaround. And typically, what has occurred over the years is if the road ever gets picked up and gets extended, you remove sections of that turnaround and basically resurface the driveway so that nobody can really turn around in that area anymore. So essentially, if anybody needs to turn around, they're not going to be able to really turn around and like it is now. They'd have to either keep on going or turn out like somebody normally would, which is to back up in the street.
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing the list of waivers. I appreciate your time.
No problem at all.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
All right, next person up is Mary Ann Power. I see your hand raised.
Yes, hi, Mary Ann Power, 49 Stark Avenue. I just had a couple of comments. It was mentioned earlier that the current road was designed in the 1950s. Things are obviously very different now. And it sounds like this plan just wants to take this 1950s design and add another 400 feet onto it. The road is already not wide enough for the traffic that it receives. Navigating on it on any given day can be an issue. Winter is terrible. The road's not wide enough to get a full-size snow plow, so it's a smaller snow plow that comes down all winter long. We have a bad winter, the road gets smaller and smaller, and you can not pass two cars. They're talking about extending that issue another 400 feet. They're talking about getting rid of the turnaround at the current turnaround. Myself and my neighbors across the street, we both have large, wide driveways, which are already used as turnarounds because people don't want to do the turnaround at the quote unquote temporary turnaround that exists. They're certainly not going to want to go another 400 feet down the hill and up the hill down to the other turnaround. In my opinion, this is going to cause a lot more UPS trucks, FedEx trucks, everybody else turning around in my driveway, just because it happens to be big enough. And it's probably easier for them to turn around in my driveway than it is to go all the way down to the turnaround, which, is not big enough. It looks like the proposed turnaround is a similar size to what we have now. From experience, I've been working from home for the past 18 months. A UPS truck can't spin around in that unless there's no other cars around. So, they're gonna continue, and they're gonna increase the turnarounds in my driveway and my neighbor's driveway, which are, like I said, happen to be wide enough, which is great for us, but it's also great for them. Emergency vehicle access is an issue now because there are so many cars that park on the street. Very often, I wonder if I can fit my small SUV between these two cars parked on the street across from each other. There are times when I know for certain that a fire truck could not get down the street without damaging one of these cars. I don't, aside from the conservation issues, aside from the flooding issues, I don't see that it's a good plan to extend something that's already inadequate. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. So currently, in the winter, does the DPW, they don't send a full-size plow down that street, do they?
No, I don't think they can.
All right. Do you know what they use? They just do a pickup truck?
It's sort of a bigger pickup truck.
Okay. All right. Well, it'd be good to know from the DPW if if they had a bigger cul-de-sac down there, if it would be possible for a normal size, the regular size truck to get down that road. But it is pretty narrow as it is. So.
Yeah, and especially given there's we don't have the restrictions in town for overnight parking. So if it's a storm that's not deemed big enough to restrict parking, then the cars are still on the street and the plows sort of work around them, and it's a mess.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep.
All right. Next person I see is
Hi, Matt. It's Joanne Bonfilio.
Hello, Joanne.
Yep. Hi. Molly's up on Molly's Circle and
Hi.
my neighbor.
Hi, I'm Ivy Bork. I'm at 10 Molly Circle. And I appreciate this meeting and thank you for letting us talk. I would just like to echo a lot of what's been said about the water drainage. I'm very concerned about that with the conservation area back there and the drainage behind my neighbors' homes. So I would like to just put that extra echo into that.
That was awesome. Really good.
The other concern that I have, and Chairman Larry, you had mentioned it about the trees. When I hear that you want to demolish and just, take out all those trees in that whole subdivision, that totally concerns me. I like the comment about the buffer, but my house is kind of up a little bit higher. It's a wind tunnel here already. Without the buffer of those trees, I just can imagine what Molly Circle is going to be without any kind of buffer there. And without the trees, that slope is just going to bring the water right down into that house behind Jim's house, and then all the water down in that area. We've had a lot of water as it is, and the mosquitoes, etc. I mean, it's not just water damage to the homes, it is just an area for mosquitoes at this time. So those are that's the concern I have about the trees. I have one more thing that Attorney Mann had mentioned and pointed out, that there is an easement, and on the record, the plans, you have text that says proposed future road going to Molly Circle. If the attorneys, if the proposal is not to use that road, I would appreciate or ask, can that text be removed? So it doesn't say proposed future road anymore on there. Is that a possibility?
No, because
And
that's
it's
what
not-
came from the, that's what came, I'm sorry, Jill, I didn't know you're still on. That's what came from the record plans.
Yeah, I have a hearing actually that I am actually walking into now, so I'm going to have to sign off and have Peter handle the rest of this. But I apologize. I just didn't expect the hearing to go this long. But notwithstanding any of that, that easement is there because the town wanted to be able to connect the two projects, and we're not entitled because that right extends to others and not just to us. And quite frankly, if somebody were to deny us because we couldn't extend and we needed to form a connection, we would end up having to utilize that. I mean, these lots are permitted lots, and we are going to do as little as we can to interfere with the current status down there, but we do want to be able to have an approved plan that allows us to develop those 3 lots.
I understand, but what you had said is that you're not proposing to go through to Molly Circle, is that correct?
We aren't currently, as long as this plan is approved. If this plan isn't approved and we're asked to actually create a connection, then we would have to modify the plan, and there would be a potential to actually extend the road through Molly, which is a legal right that exists.
Okay, and if that happens, would everybody on Molly Circle through Kathleen Drive and even Lila Circle be notified and have be able to give some input since they'd be affected by this?
Everybody has the right to give input. No, they would not be directly notified because it's still only the people within 300 feet of the project. I believe in Wilmington, probably just Wakefield, it's 300, not just 100 or, no, it is. Peter, it's abutters to abutters, right? That's
I
what we did.
believe,
So it doesn't, the proposal to extend through Molly does not end up resulting in expansion of the abutter list. So those parties that were notified would remain notified, and that's it. But everybody has the right to come and to offer testimony. But everybody who bought on Molly also bought with that, reservation of an easement. Again, though, we're not trying to do that presently. We're simply trying to extend the cul-de-sac and trying to make these changes in as minimally and impactful way as possible, but still to provide adequate access to those properties.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
That's it for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Peter and Jill, I know you've got that text on your plan of a future roadway. Did you get that just from a plan, or did you read the deeds for those parcels up there?
That came
We
from
read the deed.
that came from the subdivision plans as well, that from Molly Circle, because you got to remember, I think if you've been around Wakefield a lot, that was a very large subdivision in itself.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a reservation. I believe I checked. There was a reservation of rights, remember, Peter,
Mm-hmm.
by the developer, and an extension and then a transfer. So it was done properly. I mean, I can submit it to the board. But again, we aren't looking to do that presently, which is why we did not submit all of those documents.
Okay. Just because I also looked at those deeds, and it, on their deeds, it does not mention anything about that roadway. So just because an easement is on a plan doesn't mean the rights have been granted. There needs to be a conveyance in order to grant that. So you may want to
Well,
double check on that. So
A conveyance deed
Yeah.
for a single family home may not have that on there, Mr. Chairman.
okay, well, you know, their
Doesn't mean
rights.
it's not, doesn't mean it's not there. It just means somebody may not have put it in the deed. But it's on the, it's on the,
Again-
it's on the subdivision plans that were approved by the Wakefield Planning Board.
Again, just because an easement is on a plan does not make it legal. So
I understand what legal requirements are, that you actually have to effect it through a written document, but the written document can specifically address simply that you must comply with all of the elements and all the rights, restrictions, and easements provided on the subdivision plan can in fact create that. And I believe that's what was done. I'll have to go back and look, because again, we weren't seeking to improve and go through Molly.
I understand that. It's just you seem to
I'm
be
pretty confident.
well. That's good. You just seem to be throwing out a threat there that if you don't get something, you're going to go.
Okay, wait. There is absolutely no threat. I had no choice but to point it out in the beginning, and I did, and I told everybody that is not something we're trying to do. I do not threaten. I simply explained that is something that's available, that if the board were to deem it possible, I would never do that, and I'm not doing that now.
Okay, all right, thank you. I know that the neighbors up there are very concerned about that, and
Yes.
I've talked to people on Stark Ave. They're also concerned about the road being extended too. So that's why I looked into it myself. So, all right, thank you.
Well, thank you, Chairman Lowry. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, next I see Erin. You have your hand up.
Hi, thank you, everybody. Erin Walsh-Hagan. I am a resident on Stark Avenue, 38 Stark Ave. Thank you for allowing us to have some time to speak. I just want to reiterate the concerns that were already shared with folks that reside on or around Stark Avenue. So number one, totally agree with the conditions of the road. Want to share that furniture delivery is really tough here. We have, if Jordan's furniture truck comes down the road, they have to actually back up. They can't even turn around at that cul-de-sac or turnaround spot. They have to back down the street. Garbage truck often has to also back down the street. 11 years ago, my son, we needed to call an ambulance for him because of an accident in the home, and actually had a really hard time getting an ambulance up the street. It was very, very difficult in the winter to get an ambulance to get up the street, given the road conditions. Stark Ave, particularly towards the beginning of the road, has a number of multifamily homes that, as previous residents have shared, result in a lot of on-street parking, which makes it really hard, even on just a typical day, to get one car down the street. So I share all the concerns that previous residents have shared around the conditions of the road, as well as what folks have shared around conditions regarding wetlands, et cetera. I also want to echo what the previous residents of Molly have shared around concerns with the language that's indicated in the plans around future action for extension anywhere off of Stark Avenue. and want to ask the board to be really careful in looking at those plans and considering language around permission to extend, allowed to extend, because I think it's in my review of the plans I've been concerned about what's presented in the plan and what's been shared this evening around having that action be available to them, and just want some clarification from the board tonight as to what the public's input would be if any developer residents should choose to take liberty of whatever that ability to extend means. So I'm just asking the question as to what the residents' input would be on any action that might be taken regarding extension of Stark Avenue.
Well, I could say if any extension of Stark Ave was done, there would be a sufficient cul-de-sac at the end of the road. So unlike the temporary one that lasted for 60 years, another temporary one may last 100 years, or it could be extended. There is, I guess, a potential, if this does go through, for someone else to extend the road even further. I looked at opportunities to extend the road further on, and the only way I see that could be done would be to go back up the hill and over up to Holland Ave, which I don't think it's viable. I'm a surveyor, so I do tend to look at these things. So I can't see that this road would be extended much further, and I find it very difficult to be able to extend this and have it tie into a road that exists now. But obviously, there are people a lot smarter than me that can figure things out. So the right to I don't think we can put any barriers on a right to extend if there are property owners that are further down the street. So I don't know if there's anything we can do to prevent that in the future.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it. And I just want to echo what others have shared around wanting to see the full list of waivers available to the public. So appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next, I see Brandon.
Hi, good evening. I just want to reiterate some of the comments of fellow residents of Stark Ave. It's gone on for quite a while, so I'll keep it brief. Arian and Marianne.
I'm sorry. Can you state your address too?
Sure. 42 Stark Avenue.
Thank you.
You know, my husband and I have concerns about the traffic and on-street parking and access of Stark Avenue, and further exacerbating that by adding on to it, as well as having all of the construction and kind of related vehicles related to this project. Along with that, we have spoken to several of our neighbors, and a lot of people haven't been notified of these plans or this hearing. And a lot of the residents are on here because of word of mouth. So I just also want to kind of bring that up to the board, so that hopefully for future hearings, the residents of Stark Ave are afforded the opportunity to join outside of being invited by their neighbors.
All right. Well, unfortunately, legally, within 300 feet gets notified directly, and then the only other way is public notices, postings for meetings. We're going to set another public hearing at some point. We're going to set a date and a time for that. So we really don't have a mechanism for notifying everyone who wants to be notified, unfortunately. So the only thing you can do is just watch for agendas from the board and talk to your neighbors. Unfortunately, there is no better system for that in the town right now. So I hope that helps. All right, are you all done, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, Lisa, I see you have your name up. your hand up.
Hi, this is Joe Ventura. I'm 53 Stark Ave. I'm across the street from the Half cul-de-sac. I've been here 25 years. That Half cul-de-sac, they do the same thing down at the end. It's just not sufficient because I can tell you from personal experience, they come driving up on my lawn constantly. Also, my neighbors down below have to bring their trash up top to get their trash taken away because the trash truck won't go down. It can't turn around, it has to back in. And then lastly, I just want to say that in the 25 years I've been here, there's been probably, I think there's been 4 developments that have been tried to put through there. And you know, just with one house, and well, there was a couple others that were multiple homes. All for the same reasons that are mentioned here tonight, they never got through. And so I'm just wondering, you know, nothing's really changed in that time. So I wonder how that could possibly be. The planning board gunned these other ones down, but this one's okay. I just, that doesn't really set too well. And the fact that, you know, a waiver is a waiver, and what, you know, there's regulations put in place for a reason. And I think the fact that they need so many waivers really is very concerning at this point, because why have regulations if it's going to come in with a lot of waivers and say, go right ahead. So that's all I got. I don't want to keep anybody. It's getting late. So thank you for letting me talk.
All right. All right. Thank you, Joe. All right. Just on the point of waivers, there are some reasons that some roads do not need to comply with all the rules and regulations of the town. And so having waivers gives the board the opportunity to make some tweaks and changes to roads that help them fit in, such as roads that are at the end of a street that doesn't have sidewalks. It doesn't seem to make sense to put sidewalks at the end of a road that doesn't have sidewalks already. So that's the reason why there are some waivers. But there are some that don't get through a lot of times. So again, the developer has a chance to make their case of why this would be a good thing and an improvement for the neighborhood. So we're giving them the opportunity to do that. And I think we've given him some feedback tonight. The next step is for them to update their plans and come back with any changes. So at this point, is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak? And I'm not saying this is your last chance to speak. This is just for tonight. This would be it. So does anyone else have anything else? Anyone have anything to add at this point? All right. Again, we will be continuing the public hearing. I'm going to let you know when shortly. So does any of the other board members have anything to add at this point? Okay. So I don't know, Peter, have you received enough direction so far, or do you need more input? Where do you want to go from here?
Well,
I think we have.
Oh, she's still there.
Well, yeah,
Go ahead,
I'm
Jill.
standing outside the hallway of my meeting. So I just think we would like to continue the hearing. I think we need, how much time, Peter, for the board to be able to give them, meaningful changes to the plan?
I mean, I'd like to see what's on the, I don't even know what's on the DPW comments, which is 6 pages, and I haven't seen any of the comments from the fire department, that type of thing. So,
well, we have to continue tonight to a date certain, so perhaps the best thing, Chairperson Lowry, would be to continue to the hearing that's 30 days out. And
I was
then
going
to
to say,
the
why
extent,
don't we do, yeah, the hearing after the
and
next
to the
one.
extent in the extent we're unable to deliver meaningful changes to you because they're just too much, the changes are too extensive, then we would simply submit through Erin a request to continue that hearing. If that would be acceptable to the board, that would be acceptable to the petitioner.
All right. we can, we can continue public hearing. So you're talking, let's see,
October 26th. Looks like it's the date.
Yep.
October 26th is when you'd like to continue it to? Okay.
Please, right.
All right. Just so you know, I've been on the board long enough, and one of the reasons I got on the board, it kind of drove me crazy. If we're going to set a public hearing date and time, we're going to have that public hearing at that time.
That's fine.
All right. I personally do not like continuances at the last moment. Plus, we need to set a public hearing date at a meeting. So I just want you to know, we're going to set a public hearing date for October 26th. And we'll set that for October 26th at 7:15. Okay.
Okay.
So the only way actually, there is no way not to have a public hearing that night. So if you are not ready, you still need to appear and hear from the public if there's any comments, and then we can set another.
Understood. And as long as we get all of those comments, tonight, then we can look at them tomorrow, we'd be fine. I actually have to now sign off because my hearing is now, but Peter, you can accept the continuance on my behalf, and I appreciate the time of the board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to set the public hearing date for October 26th at 7:15. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I will make sure that you get copies of the comments. And so do you think by the 26th you will have filed with the Conservation Commission, or will it be sometime after that?
Let me get back to you on that. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, if I get comments back from the DPW that look like they don't like the low impact development, then we might have to think about changing it. And I don't want to, tell you that I'm going to go ahead with this plan. We may have to change it. I'm not sure.
Okay.
If that's fair.
Yep, that's fine. So what I will attempt to do, I will see if Erin can post I was going to say post the waivers that we have submitted so far, or we actually may want to wait till the next one, because I think there's going to be an updated waiver list. So, and
I think we're probably going to do something similar to what we do in North Reading, but there's going to be so many waivers. I don't think I can actually stick them on the plan. We may actually just have a waiver plan so that you can all have them all in one place. If that seems like that would be something you'd be interested in, that way they're all in one sheet. You can refer to them. And
yes,
because there's got to be so many. I don't think we can sprinkle them around the plans here and still be able to be legible.
No, that's fine. I would prefer that too. So we can all so I'll hold off on posting the requested waivers at this point, and when we get the new plan set, we're going to post that. So I would also ask.
Yeah, Matt, we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay. I would also ask Peter that before the meeting, hopefully, a few days before the meeting, we get a copy of the new plan set, so we can post it on our website and the board members can review it. So
yeah, well, I usually will send them along to Erin whenever we're pretty much ready to do it. Hopefully I can give you more than a few days notice. I'll try to give you a little more than that.
Okay. All right, appreciate that. So, all right, so sounds good. We will see you the 26th of October.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
All right. So, item 6, which is items not anticipated by the chair. So I know we got a request for a public hearing date, to set a public hearing. I'm gonna stop this share. Give me a second. I pull this up. I don't see Phil Posner. Is he on here? Or Mr. Lou? All right. So just so you know, other board members, I got notice yesterday that someone was referred to by the town council to the planning board to set a public hearing date for a zoning change, proposed zoning change to get onto the fall town meeting. Unfortunately, we don't have the full text of what he was proposing to do. It was to do with changing setbacks from wetland buffers. So we can't set a public hearing tonight, or a date to set a public hearing tonight, because we don't have the text. The other issue was, by the time we set this, there wouldn't be enough time to conduct a public hearing and then get the zoning article submitted. So that's why we're probably not hearing from him tonight, because the time frame is just a little too condensed. This is the second year this has happened, so I will reach out to them, and I can have Erin forward you this, or I can forward this email to the other members so you can take a look at it, just so you know what came across our desk. I don't think there's any rush now, because any zoning changes are going to happen until spring. So that was one item. At this point, I don't have anything else. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add at this point. All right. Sorry if I'm a little punchy. I've been here since 5 o'clock and it's been a long day. So Theo, it's something you wanted to add, or?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. So I will forward you guys the comments from DPW that, again, I just received tonight. So you can take a look at them. I haven't even read through them, to tell you the truth. They're quite extensive. So and they came to one of my other emails, so I didn't really look at it till a short time ago. But I will send it to you, and then also the applicant for Stark Ave. All right. If no one has anything else, I'm going to move on to item 7. Do I hear motion to adjourn? Really? No one wants to make a motion? Come on.
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
All right. Thank you, Theo. I appreciate that. Do I hear second?
Second.
All right. Thanks, Jim. You two are my favorite right now. So, all right. Roll call vote. Bill Spalding.
Yes.
Megan Menasali.
Yes.
Theo Knoll.
Yes.
Jim Hogan.
Yes.
And myself is a yes. So it's unanimous. We want to adjourn tonight. So, all right. Thank you, everyone.